Hello and welcome to News 9 Facebook Live with me, Adarsh Vepachedu. There is a big update when it comes to the murky Kerala gold smuggling case. Prime accused Sandeep Nair has said that he is ready to turn a prover in the case. With this development, a lot of skeletons may tumble out of the closet and a lot of big names are likely to be exposed. But before we get into what it means that an accused has turned an approver, let me tell you who this accused number 4, Sandeep Nair, actually is. Sandeep was arrested along with Swapna Suresh, the main accused, by NIA right here from Bengaluru on the 11th of July. Sandeep was one of the main links to understanding as to how the entire smuggling nexus, the smuggling chain really panned out. Now, the National Investigation Agency had searched his house as well in Thiruvananthapuram and found plenty of incriminating material linking him and pointing him in the particular case. He was also accused in the case registered by the Customs and Enforcement Directorate. Now, Sandeep Nair was eventually granted bail by the Kochi Economic Offences Court on the 22nd of this month, but he continued to remain in jail as he is accused in another case filed by the NIA. Sandeep at this point in time is lodged in the Viyur Central Jail in Thrissur district. Tell us more about Sandeep Nair's future role in the case. We have with us Supreme Court Advocate Sanket Yanagi joining us on the phone line. Many thanks, sir, for speaking to us and for taking time out. My first question, Sandeep Nair has decided to turn a prover and reveal details in the CJM court. In your long legal career, you would have seen cases such as this where accused have turned into approvers. So legally speaking, what does this mean and whether there is some sort of leeway or relief that Sandeep can expect despite the fact that the court has given out a disclaimer that he will not?
In many of the cases like this, usually the accused would prefer to try themselves as an approver in order to escape from the clutches of law.
Right.
But this is also one of the attempts made by Mr. Sandeep Nair. However, having he filed an application to disclose the facts under section 164 of the CRPC, and he has to adduce he has to record his statement, and thereby he may have to again turn himself as an approver for the prosecution.
Right.
But it is ultimately left to the discretion of the court based on the statement made by him under 164 proceedings as to whether he should be considered as an approver or he should be permitted to be turned as an approver in this case or otherwise. Because the statement to be made by him and the accusations against him and the evidence against him, which has already been gathered by the prosecution and by the investigating agency, that will be whether sufficient in order to continue him as an accused number 4, or what would be the advantages or disadvantages for having him turned as accused number 4 to approver. That would be considered at the later stage by the prosecution.
Okay.
And now the prosecution, though has an advantage of him being an approver, in other way has a disadvantage as well. In a case where he conveniently and calculatively tries to evade some information and chooses at a particular point not to disclose certain information which is against him, then the prosecution would be at loss.
Right.
So under those circumstances, the prosecution first has to be convinced that it has gathered all the relevant material against him, and further investigation may be required through his links or which his information which he is now going to reveal in the proceedings subsequent thereto.
But
and mostly in this case, as I could see the information which has been reported in various media, the approach of the investigating agency from multiple angles so far has not led to some conclusive proof.
Correct.
So that is one of the reasons they may also accept here to be him turned as an approver, so that they can gather more information, they can gather the links of this person with the Dubai individuals and the foreign individuals who have been named by the prosecution in the case. And more so when it is connected to the office of the Chief Minister at one stretch.
Okay.
This is going to be a little more serious, and this may be a turning point as well.
Now, Mr.
Yes,
Sanket,
Vishal.
this whole situation of an accused turning an approver seems like a catch-22 situation, because the courts have also said that Sandeep Nair may as well get pinned down as an accused in this particular case, in case if he goes ahead and approve, in a sense, gives out information, all information pertaining to the case, then he may as well be pinned as an accused in this entire case, is what the courts have said. So it's almost like a double-edged sword, if I may call that.
Very true.
Okay.
It does not mean that just he turns himself as an approver, he will be relieved out of the charges. It is not so. Still, if the prosecution feels that there is incriminating material against him, maybe because of his links or maybe because of the statement which he is going to make it before the court in 164 proceedings, if the prosecution still finds that there is some material against him, it can still proceed against him as accused number 4. It cannot completely discharge him.
Right.
So, in that event, being conscious of the fact that he is going to make a statement against himself, he has chosen to do so. In that case, we may believe that he has taken the advice of the lawyers and thereby he has consciously made a decision. Maybe in the process, he may hide some information about himself.
Correct.
And reveal the information connected to others, or he may himself try to mislead the prosecution also in an attempt to safeguard himself. So that would also be examined by the court and the investigating agency, and that till they can nail him at a point where they find the incriminating material against him.
Right. But Mr. Sanket, can you tell our viewers whether there have been cases where certain accused have turned approver and then eventually they've been given some sort of relief, whether that's possible, what is the scope, and when does it really happen that way?
So now, looking at this case, which has been registered under Section 16, 17 and 18 of the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act of 1967, the situation is entirely different.
Okay.
They are investigating from multiple angles as to whether there is any fund received from the foreign countries or as whether that fund which has been received was used for any terrorism,
Correct.
terrorist activities.
Because that's what the NIA has alleged at this point.
Correct. So, this case is quite different, stands on a different footing than other cases, like which are criminal in nature.
Okay.
So, in other cases, there are several instances where the accused might have turned either as an approver or might have chosen to adduce an evidence against other parties to safeguard himself. But here is a case where this is entirely standing on a different footing because digital evidence is mostly relied upon. And in other cases, relying on the digital evidences or the collection of digital evidences or depending on those digital evidences in the court of law to prove the guilt, the chances would be too less. But in this criminal case, other cases and this case, which is totally based on the digital evidences, would stand on a different footing. And here, the chances of he being turned as a witness because of he being turned as a approver and would be relieved out of the chances of being prosecuted as an accused are very less.
Very less. So, bottom line, we can really conclude that there's very little possibility that Sandeep Nair could get some kind of a relief, some kind of a leeway, in case if he's even hoping or expecting, if that is his intention, then he may as well really forget about it, because we are dealing with a very different case. You spoke about the nature of this case as to how dangerous it is, and we're also talking about terrorist links to this very case. So, yes,
and
no
in
question.
my opinion,
yes, please
yet
go ahead,
another point, it may be also a plot from the other accused as well to deviate or to misdirect the prosecution or investigation.
Okay.
That chance would also be there.
Okay.
They may be trying to misdirect the entire prosecution process. That could also be there.
So this could be a well-calculated move also, and
very
under the guidance of their lawyers.
Yes.
Okay. My last question to you, Mr. Sanket. When we are speaking about or when we are dealing with such cases where accused turn approvers, do we see such cases reaching their logical conclusion a little quickly, because now you suddenly have more evidence, more insights into the case? And also, how can we expect the court proceedings and subsequent investigation to really pan out in this particular case, the Kerala gold smuggling case, from here on, apart from the possibility of a lot of names that may tumble out of the closet, given the fact that Sandeep Nair has now turned an approver?
So now there are two interesting points. Now most of the evidence is digital in nature. It is very convenient for the prosecution to find out the trail of the transactions and the communications. And digital evidence is an acceptable evidence and admissible in the court of law. But now they want to have the connectivity or the synchronization of those links in order to conclude the guilt or to create some charge on someone else. So in order to understand those chain of events, since they are working on the digital evidence, Mr. Sandeep's evidence or turning himself as an approver to assist the prosecution to nail others may to certain extent give a relief to prosecution in a given circumstances as to find out the dots or connect the dots which have been missing there. To that extent, it is useful for a prosecution in any way. And as such, prosecution has already headed towards 26 other people other than those who have been arrested. At least to get some more information, credible information, and the link of the politicians or bureaucrats. It could be, to certain extent, would be useful.
But at the same time, in the same breath, like how we just discussed earlier, what if there is a case where this whole thing is being done to mislead the courts? In such a case, we may see this consuming more time. That is also a possibility, right?
Consuming more time, that may be possible. And in case he is trying to misdirect the court, and if it is found in his statement or misleading statements or misdirecting the prosecution, or if he is trying to destroy the evidence by way of his misleading statements or misleading links which he is trying to give, he could also be prosecuted for the offense of destroying of an evidence.
Oh yes, indeed.
That could be an additional provision which he can alone be charged.
Right. Many thanks, Mr. Sanket, for joining us and for shedding light on what's really going on, the latest when it comes to the Kerala gold smuggling case, as to how accused number 4, Mr. Sandeep Nair, has now decided that he will go ahead and turn into an approver, and that he will give out all the facts, all the information related to the Kerala gold smuggling case. But yes, the courts will have to tread a very careful path at this point in time. As the expert just pointed out, this may as well be a ploy, this may as well be a well-planned move to ensure that the courts are misdirected. So yes, if in case all the information that Sandeep Nair is giving out once he turns approver, if it is found to be true, then yes, the prosecution will in a sense have it a little easy. We could see the case proceeding quite quickly, and we could also see a bunch of big names really tumbling out of the closet. But yes, all in all, not a great day for the ruling CPI in the state of Kerala. It has to be seen as to how this entire case will pan out and what kind of murky details will really surface in the days to come. If you've liked the information that we've shared with you, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to News 9 on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Many thanks for joining us.